Hello and welcome to a very holiday episode of Bake It Up a Notch. I'm Erin McDowell and I am so excited for today's episode because I'm going to be making one of my favorite holiday cookies, Genovese. Absolutely delicious, so yummy. And then I'm also going to show you a couple other easy cookie tips and tricks to help make enough cookies that you can build a holiday cookie box this season. Now, I don't want to do this alone, so I'm partnering up with my friend Dan Grossi-Pelosi from the show right here on Food 52, Secret Sauce. If you haven't watched it, be sure you check out that show. It's amazing and so much fun. We're going to actually do an episode of his show together, and I'm also inviting him onto this episode today so that we can make our cookie boxes together, and he can tell me a little bit about the cookie box party he throws every holiday season. It's going to be so much fun, so much sugar, and I can't wait. So let's get baking. I already made a few cookies to add to the cookie box selection yesterday, but today I want to dive into Genovese. This is actually a recipe from my first book, The Fearless Baker, and I love these cookies. They are so special and they really are a beautiful shape and presentation to add to a cookie box. They have two main components. They have a custard filling and then this delicious short textured semolina dough as the outer cookie dough. They are absolutely incredible, so delicious. So let's get started making the custard. We want that custard to cool off completely before we go to assemble the cookies. So I'm going to start with some whole milk. And I'm going to turn that on to start to heat up. To my milk, I'm also going to add some of the sugar for this recipe. The reason we do this is because it helps prevent the milk from kind of burning at the bottom, but we don't want to use all of it because we need the power of these granules to help us with our thickening agent, the cornstarch. So I'm just going to add a little bit to this. I'm also going to add a half of a vanilla bean. I've cut it in half and scraped all the seeds to loosen them, and that's going to go right into our pot. Oh, rogue vanilla bean seed. No. You go in as well. That's like $3 worth of vanilla bean seeds I just saved. I'm also gonna add some lemon zest. That's one of the things that I love about these Genovese cookies. They're not really lemon cookies, but they do have citrus as a flavoring component to both the dough and this custard. And it comes across in the end really light and bright, and it's just a lovely, lovely flavor. If you wanted to mix this up, I think you could also use a mixture of orange and lemon would be delightful, or use orange would also be really, really nice. So let's bring that up to a simmer. While that's simmering, or coming to a simmer rather, I'm gonna add the rest of my sugar into a heat-safe bowl along with the cornstarch. Oh, and before I forget, let's also add a pinch of salt to our milk mixture too. So I've got my sugar and cornstarch in a heat-safe bowl. I'm gonna whisk those together to combine. Now, cornstarch loves to clump up. I've talked about this on Bake It Up a Notch before. This is my favorite kind of go-to method that I always use whenever cornstarch is in play. And it also works well with other types of starches, tapioca starch or potato starch. All of those, it's gonna work really, really well with. And I'm just gonna whisk it because what happens is the granules of the sugar start to disperse with that cornstarch. They are solid enough and granular enough that they help physically break up any clumps of cornstarch, which is very prone to clumping. And then also it just makes it dissolve easier into the final mixture because the cornstarch is dispersed with something that is naturally going to want to dissolve the sugar. So once we get a little closer to the simmering, we're getting close. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna add 2 egg yolks also to my bowl here. And this is gonna form sort of a paste because it's only 2 egg yolks. There's sort of a misunderstanding that sugar or salt can cook egg yolks, but actually it's just that they are hygroscopic, which means they suck moisture out of things around it. So the egg yolk, which is made of fat and is also quite liquid in texture when we mix it up, all of that sugar could just kind of suck any of the moisture out and leaving it kind of crumbly in texture. So since we want it to be a nice, smooth, luxurious egg yolk, we don't want any of that. And like I said, this is gonna form kind of a paste at first because we only have 2 egg yolks here. Sometimes when you're making a pudding, this becomes more of a smooth texture, more like a little bit, peanut buttery, or the early stages of making a cookie dough or batter. This has just come to a simmer, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to temper this mixture, okay? While whisking constantly, I'm gonna add about half of this milk mixture into what I've got here, my cornstarch, sugar, egg yolk situation, and I'm gonna whisk really, really well to fully combine it, make sure there's no clumps. And the reason that we do this tempering step is we are bringing the egg yolk mixture to temperature. We are going to warm it up a little bit gradually before adding it back into the pot. If we just dump it into the pot, it is so prone to scrambling and not having the lovely texture that we wish it would have. Okay, this is looking great. So now I'm gonna lower my temperature over here. I'm going to, while whisking constantly, add this back. And now what we wanna do is whisk this constantly until it starts to thicken. And eventually when it starts to thicken, I'm going to switch to a spatula, because that makes it a little easier to get into the nooks and crannies and the base of this pot. But for now, I just wanna be whisking it to make sure that I'm keeping it in motion and that none of the proteins from those egg yolks or any of the cornstarch that's prone to clumping up kind of start to do that anywhere I don't want to. The goal is to end up with a really nice smooth texture. This is a very thick or firm custard compared to some that you might be used to making. It's definitely thicker than something like lemon curd. It's also thicker than something like pudding or pastry cream. So this one is meant when we're all done with it, we should really be able to scoop it into our cookie and not be worried about it running out or leaking out. It's going to be a lovely texture. Okay, it's already starting to thicken up. Whoa, look at that. It's happening so fast, I'm actually gonna take it off of the heat for a second. What I'm looking for here is for fat bubbles to break the surface of this pot. That's how I know that the thickening agent of the cornstarch has done its job. So let's see what we've got here if I put it back on the heat. Oh yes, here come the fat bubbles. 1, 2, 3, 4, so many fat bubbles. Okay, we're good, we're ready to go. I'm just going to pour this onto a tray that I have lined with plastic wrap. Look how smooth and delicious that looks. Oh my gosh. And it smells like lemon and it smells like vanilla. I'm gonna leave the vanilla bean in there for now because, why not? Just let some of that flavor hang out in there while it cools. And I left enough excess plastic wrap here that I can actually fold this over and press it onto the surface. This way I prevent a skin from forming as it cools down, but you can see I'm putting it onto a little baking sheet here. Something else that would work really well is like a casserole dish or a 9x13 pan. Any of those would work really well because we just want that increased surface area. It's gonna help it cool down a lot faster. I'm gonna take this to the fridge and let it set up until firm. Around the holidays when I'm baking a lot and making a lot of cookies, I often do things like this the day before anyway, just to kind of have one little step done out of the way before I'm ready to assemble my cookies. So into the fridge this is gonna go, and then let's get ready to make our cookie dough. All right, let's make the cookie dough for these Genovese. It's actually a really fun, easy dough to make. It would actually be a great one to bring kids in because there's no mixer involved. We're just gonna do this with our hands here today. So I'm gonna start with some all-purpose flour, and I'm also going to add some semolina flour. And this is really, what makes these cookies so extra good and special. Also gonna add the sugar and our salt. I'm gonna give that a good whisk to combine. Make sure it's all nice and incorporated. Lovely. Now, I'm going to mix some of my other ingredients together really quick. I'm going to do my cream. Hello, gorgeous. I've also got 2 large eggs. Give those a little whisk. And then I'm finally gonna add some more lemon zest to this as well. Again, these aren't really lemon cookies, but they do have, this version anyway, has a very nice essence of lemony flavor. And I really, really love them. And they're a great addition to the cookie box because of their lovely shape, but I also think that that flavor is really delightful as well. The Christmas carol that disturbs me the most. Ha 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 ha, like the adults laugh. Do you know what I'm talking about? Mom and dad can hardly wait for school to start again. Ah ha 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 ha. They do this maniacal, insane laughter. Is it the most wonderful time of the year?
Yes, it is.
I mean, most of it is the most wonderful time of the year, but that like 3 seconds keeps me up at night. I've added the cold butter into my flour mixture, and this might look a little bit like when I'm making pie dough, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna incorporate it almost completely. And if you have really warm hands, you could do this with a pastry cutter as well, or even in the food processor. But this is one reason why I say this is a fun one to get some kids involved, because I always call it with my nieces, squishing the butter. So we can squish the butter and it's a lot of fun. So we're just gonna mix this in until basically the mixture looks like a coarse meal. It'll look a little bit like cornmeal or even like the semolina did when we added it, because it will just be a little bit more yellow because of the butter, but it will also have, you know, a little bit of moistness from the butter that's been incorporated, but we're not gonna be able to really see any of the pieces of butter. That's the goal. So fast forward to when I've incorporated it enough. But you need an assortment of lights. We're almost there, guys. Okay, this is what it looks like. Right? So beautiful. And you can see some little clumps, but when I squeeze them, they're coming apart. So those are not clumps of butter. Those are just like little hydrated clumpies. Okay, so I'm gonna make a well in the center and add my mixture that was cream and eggs and lemon zest. And we'll just mix it to combine. And this should kind of have a texture a little bit like, you know, shortbread dough or a roll out sort of cookie dough when you're all done. Okay, I've got my Genovese dough. It looks great. I'm gonna just cut it into 2 even pieces, form them into discs, wrap them in some plastic wrap, and let them chill until they're nice and firm. Of course, I already have some in the fridge waiting for me. So I'm gonna get this batch in the fridge and grab the other one, and let's show you how we assemble these cookies. Look at this beautiful golden dough. This is how firm it looks once it has had a chance to chill. So I am going to lightly flour my work surface and start to roll this out. I'm trying to roll it out to about 1/4 inch thick. And this dough is pretty easy to roll out, but it is also prone to cracking. If it does crack, you can absolutely just squish it back together. So truly don't even worry if it cracks, and we'll roll this out a couple of times to get as many pieces as we need. Hitting the dough like that is something you can do to start thinning it out a tiny bit when it's really, really chilled. It just makes it easier to start rolling. And it's fun as well. Especially around the holidays, you need to get out a little extra tension. See, look, crack, giant crack. Just made it worse by demonstrating to you that there is a crack. What do? Just smush it. It's fine. It can be totally fine now. And I'll prove it to you. And what we're going to do is we're going to sort of build this cookie like you would assemble a ravioli, actually. It's a completely encased filled cookie. Okay, great. So again, don't worry about the total shape here because we can re-roll this dough several times if needed. I'm gonna start with a large round cutter. This is much larger than the final cookie is going to be. Eventually, once it's assembled, we're gonna cut it with this scalloped cookie cutter and remove some of the edges. But cutting it with that smaller scalloped cutter, see how it fits inside of it? That is going to make it seal really nicely also. So I'll start by cutting as many as I can here. And remember, we're gonna need 2 pieces of dough for each cookie. So any of this excess dough, we will just pick up and we're gonna re-roll it. Okay, I transferred those first pieces to my baking sheet. Let's press out this one into a little bit of a disc and we'll roll out our scrap dough. If the dough starts to get too soft or feels sticky at any point, that is just a sign we need to chill it again, let it firm back up, and you can move on to your other piece of dough or whatever you would like to do. You can also collect the scraps from rolling out both discs and then roll out both scraps together. Anything goes, whatever your cookie method is. Okay, let's cut out a few more. I need one more to finish this tray. I'm saving some of these just off to the side because they're gonna be the top piece of our Genovese. So let's bring my other pieces here. And I have my little custard packet from before. See how nice and firm and set this is? What a weird way to show you that it's firm and set, but it is. I'm gonna use a small scoop to put in the center. You could also just use a small spoon. You'll see the amount that I'm gonna do here, but we basically just wanna make a nice little mound in the center of each. Because we want there to be a good amount of custard, but we also don't wanna have any trouble closing these cookies. It smells so good. Now I'm gonna dip my fingers. You could also use a pastry brush here, but I'm basically just gonna put some little drops of water around the outside of each cookie. And I'm being decently generous with it because I really want these to seal well. So that's why I'm not using a pastry brush, because I like the amount that goes on my fingers here, and it just really ends up creating a really nice seal. So now I'm going to gently put the top piece of dough on top of the cookie. So I'm just trying to press and expel any air out of this cookie that I can, because I don't want there to be any air trapped inside, only custard. That's kind of the goal. So now let's put another one on here. So see, I've attached it, and then I'm just gonna kind of go around right at the base of the custard and help press any air out. Awesome. So if your top dough does crack, it really shouldn't, but I might have gotten a little overzealous with my filling here. So I'm just adding a little scrap piece on top and using water to smooth it. And you'll actually see that it works really, really well to cover that little spot up. So you can do that anywhere you have a crack. Also, they're gonna get dusted with powdered sugar when they're done, and powdered sugar cures all problems in the baking world. So even if you have a couple of cracks, don't worry about it. But it shouldn't give you too much trouble. Once they're all assembled, we'll dip our scalloped cutter into some flour, and I'm gonna just use that to cut any of the excess dough from the outside of the cookies and create this beautiful scalloped shape. All right, once I get these all assembled, again, if the dough is feeling soft or sticky at all, you can refrigerate these for a little while before you bake them. But if the dough is still feeling nice to the touch, you can go straight into the oven. We're gonna bake these at 350 degrees until the edges start to turn a light golden brown. And then when they come out, we're gonna dust them with powdered sugar and just make them extra fancy and special and snow dusted for the holiday season. Into the oven they go. Okay, here are my finished cookies. These have been baked and cooled completely because we want them to be nice and cool before we dust them with powdered sugar, which is the final step. You can just see how beautiful these are with the scalloped edges. And then you have got that nice little mound in the center from where we know our custard is waiting inside for us. So let's give these a little snow capping with some powdered sugar. And you can really use as much or as little as you want. They also make a non-melting powdered sugar, which is really fun around the holidays because you don't have to worry about it kind of getting absorbed or whatever. But in this particular case, I usually like these to cool and then I just dust away. Okay, so I made some other cookies along with the Genovese, and also my friend Dan Grossi Pelosi is going to bring his pinoli cookies, which we made together on an episode of Secret Sauce, so be sure to check that out. And we're gonna set up a little bit of a cookie packing party. And this is something Dan does every year, so I want him to come on and explain how he does it. And we decided we wanted to do this in pajamas because we know how to party. So Dan, come on out.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to Bake It Up a Notch.
It's been a dream of mine to be here.
I'm so glad you're here.
I can't believe it's happening. I'm bathed in gorgeous lighting and pajamas.
Yes, this was Dan's idea to wear pajamas, and I happily embraced it because I love PJs.
Holiday cookies and PJs are a classic combo.
But I still have my apron on, which I think you
do.
can appreciate too.
I do. I wish I had one too. It would be so cute right here.
Well, I loved the idea when you started telling me how you do your cookie exchange every year. I thought it was so fun and cool. And so tell us about how you do it.
Yeah, so what I do is I have a 10-foot dining table.
Amazing.
I put butcher paper down.
Got that.
If you're coming to the party, you're either bringing homemade cookies or you're bringing drinks, either one. No store-bought, because my favorite part of the day is everyone puts their cookies in really nice little piles. They write their name and what they made, and everyone goes around and eats cookies and says like, "Where's Erin? Tell me about your cookies."
Oh, I love
and you get
that.
to know each other. You get to hear the amazing stories behind the cookie, and you get to just eat cookies and circle around this giant table. And then at the end, people take them to go, and you get the most gorgeous little box of cookies to take home.
Well, I brought out the cookies that I made, which I'm excited for you to try. I know they're one you're familiar with. And then also the cookies that you made. Well, we made together. Let's bring some of them.
Yeah, I want to hear all about it. And I'm going to taste them.
Obviously.
No.
Okay, so this is the first one that I made. This is a McDowell family tradition, haystacks.
Haystacks.
So you can make haystacks in a lot of ways, but one of the reasons that I love these as a holiday cookie or as an addition for a cookie box, obviously, texturally, they're a lot of fun.
So fun.
They're so easy to make. They're a no-bake cookie. You just melt chocolate chips and butterscotch chips, and then you fold in something crunchy. So it could be nuts, could be toasted coconut. Yeah. My mom uses crispy chow mein noodles, and that's what is underneath these. And I actually made two different versions, which my mom sometimes does. These are semi-sweet and butterscotch chips. These are milk chocolate and peanut butter chips.
These are going to be the ones. These are the ones for me. So let's just quickly do that. Thank you.
So can you show me how you'd make a pretty pile? Like, or do you make like a line? How do you do it?
People who've come for years, they sort of know what's up, but I'm very like, I want like a very neat
and tidy
pile because the party, the table, even though it's 10 feet long, it gets filled up.
Yep.
And we often have to replace. And there's this really beautiful patina of cookies on the table at the end of the day.
That.
These are my family recipe, which are a total dream. And I think to save space, maybe I'll do them in like a nice little stack.
I love that plan.
Down the middle.
These are a really fun cookie. I know you like soft, chewy cookies, so I think you're gonna love these.
Yes.
They're just like a soft, chewy sugar cookie, and then you roll the dough in sprinkles entirely. So kind of like your pinoli, except sprinkles. And I think it's kind of a fun opportunity. Don't worry about frosting or anything like super fancy. You can just, decorate your cookies before you even bake them by rolling them in something beautiful and delicious.
They're a classic sprinkle cookie, but what you've done is you've elevated them by doing this like mix of all white sprinkles.
We got some snowflakes in there, made them a little holiday-y.
It would have been hard for me to not do rainbow, personally.
Another thing we talked about on Bake It Up a Notch last holiday season were my favorite gingerbread cookies. So I made some of those also.
Now, are you a chewy gingerbread or a crispy?
So I have recipes for both, but as you can see, these are pretty chewy. See, look at that bend.
You're after my heart.
It's a bend, 100%. Not a snap.
I'm obsessed.
And then finally, my kind of showstopper cookie.
Oh my gosh. And also another family recipe of mine, although not yours, we have our own. But
I get so nervous when people say that because I hope these are like up to snuff.
I have a feeling my grandmother, we love you, but these, if they're better, I'm gonna let you know. I'm not holding back.
And I also will not be upset if they are not better than an Italian grandma's.
A nonna.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, what flavor did you go inside?
They're kind of lemony and vanilla-y, just like a little bit. And what I love about these is they are a little fancier and a little more labor intensive, but again, look at them in the array of these cookies.
Stunning.
It's like
a
so
snowfall.
Fun.
Also, what do you call these?
I always learned of these as Genovese.
Okay.
But what do you call them?
Genovese, correct. One of the versions. We also would just call them like a ravioli cookie because they look like a ravioli and they're filled. Do. And I think that we would do a version that was also chocolate.
Oh, I love that.
But I actually am glad because I like this version better, the flavor profile at least.
Okay, so now we have to go down and we write on them.
So this is your best chance for self-promotion amongst a crowd. So you can write whatever you want. You can write your Instagram name, you can write your website, you can write, I always write my Instagram handle because, we're always looking for followers.
Genovese. And I think I'm gonna be like Lil Lemon.
Yes.
And a lot of fun.
I'm writing pinoli cookies and I'm doing my Instagram handle because you know what else? If people like them, why not share them? And then people will DM you, where's the recipe from? It just goes global.
I love that. So here, from hashtag bake it up a notch. I love this both from the presentation standpoint and also like such a great party idea. And I also think it sets up people for success with actually packing cookies because I feel like people don't always think about that.
100%.
Especially when you have lots of different shapes, there's some things you can do to like be a little bit more careful. So should we, it's just the two of us at this party. So should we pack up some boxes?
I'm packing a box to take home.
Yeah, me too.
I also just have to say at the end of the party, you just roll this up, recycle it, and you're done.
I love that.
Instant cleanup. Okay, so in a surprise to no one, you have macarons hiding that we just found. So we're gonna put them down on the table.
I had more cookies that I forgot about. We had an episode about making French macarons on Bake It Up a Notch. I think it's one of the best episodes of Bake It Up a Notch ever. So many people have made successful macarons from this episode. Grab your tin.
Oh, there's might be something in here. Let's see. Okay,
wait, this is my tin.
So that's your tin, which is incredible. It's like this
big.
vintage red box.
It's a huge tin, but it has a nice lid.
This is my favorite cookie tin. I have a lot, but
there's something rattling around in there. Oh my gosh!
Oh no!
Stop!
Baby cookie tin.
Look at this tin.
It's so cute.
And see, I just want them to then be nestled on top of one another.
But I'm gonna let you pack your tin, and then I'm gonna pack mine after because you deserve to take as many of these as you want.
And I've got a lot to fill.
So tell me, I love packing a cookie tin, but we get to share each other's tips. So
yeah, okay. Well, my biggest tip is that I would put the sturdiest cookies on the bottom. And in this case, I think that would actually be the haystacks. And I would leave the most tender or fragile cookie more towards the top. So maybe the French macarons or the Genovese would be more around the top.
Do you consider yourself like a sturdy cookie or a fragile cookie?
It depends on the day. Like today I'm feeling pretty sturdy, but yesterday I felt very fragile.
Okay.
What are your packing tips?
I think for me, it's like, where am I taking this tin? Am I taking it to the couch or am I taking it like to another state?
Totally.
Am I putting it in my purse? Like, where's it going? And then I really maybe get a little bit more particular. But I think the biggest tip for me is keeping them fresh longer because I'm a big proponent of like right after Thanksgiving, like I'm thinking about cookies. So we would always put a piece of like really good like sandwich bread in the tin. And most cookies, not all, like a biscotti, you want to actually be kind of hard, but most cookies that are really soft, that piece of bread will go into the box and the bread will absorb all the air before the cookies, so they'll stay soft, right?
That's such a great tip. And another thing that does that really well are marshmallows. So what's kind of cool about that is you can put marshmallows in something like this, it'll absorb them, and they're shelf stable.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing. You don't have to worry about it, and people can just eat a bonus marshmallow too.
Wait, so because like the bread every like week I would put a new piece of bread in.
You could just leave the
The
marshmallows
marshmallow
in.
just stays.
I mean, I keep it in my brown sugar to keep it soft also. And what's so funny is like, I don't have to replace them because they're shelf stable, but I do sometimes because also that marshmallow gets all brown sugar coated and it's delicious.
You eat it. That's your s'more moment.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean,
so good.
The tips are just pouring out of you.
I'm gonna start with a layer of haystacks down here, I think. So another thing I do want to talk about a little bit as I put some of these fragile cookies on top is I want to talk about how to mail cookies, because that's a big question that I get at this time of year.
Yes.
And it's a tricky one because, for example, I wouldn't make anything this fragile or delicate to mail. I would focus more on cookies like these and your pignoli. Even these would mail pretty well.
Yeah.
Anything that has the tendency to be fragile, and the most important thing when you're mailing is packing things in tight. You just don't want them to have any room to move.
I have gotten pignolis like when I was in college or when I lived in San Francisco. They were mailed to me. The thing also is like you're mailing cookies, so like release your expectations a little bit. They might show up a little broken, and that's okay, right?
Yes. When I mail, and you're gonna think this is wild, you have to make sure you're doing it in the right kind of tin.
Yes.
But most tins like this, as long as they are not coated on the inside, they are, there's paper in here.
All kinds of discoveries. Sorry.
No, hold on.
Yes, please.
So as long...
I keep my paper in my tins.
Of course,
you can use them.
recycling.
Hello, I don't want to waste it.
So as long as this is, heat safe and there's no coating on the inside, you could actually spray the inside of this with nonstick spray and press cookie dough right into it. So then I would sometimes I bake brownies or a chocolate chip cookie or something in it, put the lid on top after it cools and send it, no breakage.
Of course. We're gonna pack
your
my tin, but before we do that, I wanna just give you a little parchment moment, as you know what I'm gonna do. But 2 pieces, a piece of parchment folded in half. I'm just gonna trace the cover. I also just love a craft project. I love decorating cookies because it's like also kind of a craft project. But now I'm just gonna cut the parchment so that it fits into the tin neatly.
Perfectly, yes.
Look at this, perfect. She's perfectly flat in there. Gorgeous. Now I'm gonna pack away these peanut butter ones. I can't. And look, I think I'm gonna get just perfectly 6. For some reason, the shape of this pill is just so satisfying.
This is such a good shape for a cookie tin, and one of the reasons is because you can go with layers very easily. And without kind of, but you could still fit, it's deceptive. You can fit a lot of cookies.
You can fit a lot of cookies, and it's tall, which is nice. Now, I am probably just gonna eat all those Genovese while I'm here and just think about my grandmother.
Oh, I need to know what you think of them, because I don't actually expect that they're gonna be up to grandma's snuff. This is like the kind of, I'm just saying.
Well, the thing with this stuff is like sometimes you just will never make it as good as grandma. It just doesn't, it's an emotional thing. So, you can't put your
exactly. And that's exactly what I'm saying is I will never anticipate that it'll be better than someone's memory of something they've been eating their whole life. But I think they're very good.
Shall we end with eating these? Are we ending?
I think we're about done.
Great. This has been the best cookie party ever.
Cheers.
Cheers. Get out of here. You're my grandma now.
That's all I've ever wanted.
Congrats. Oh my God, the custard.
I just love how the dough, like again, you get a little bit of crispness around the edges, but the dough is so soft. It's more like a pastry than like a cookie.
I was gonna say, it's giving me like a pastry. Oh my gosh. These are special.
I love these. And they are a showstopper, like a little bit amongst it's like a showstopper because there's 2 components. That's all, like the same way that any sandwich cookie or something is. and the dusting of powdered sugar.
And everyone watching this episode has just got the recipe, so they're going to make these.
Yes.
And you put it on your nose. I saw that.
No, I didn't.
I was trying to promote your recipe.
This was so much fun, and I really hope that it inspires so many people at home to throw a cookie party like this.
Yes.
And also, you know, just make a new tradition. Like
Absolutely.
however you make your cookies, whether you're just making cookies for your family and packing them up to deliver to friends or as a gift, it's such a great time to try something new. But what I love about your party is that you don't have to make all of the cookies.
No, invite people over to make them and bring them and tell their story and throw it however you want. This is just a starter kit to doing it. So many great ways to do it. There's no wrong way.
As always, all these delicious recipes are linked in the video description below, so head down there for all this goodness. And be sure to click like and subscribe so you can be made aware of all of my new episodes as they become available. And you'll also be able to be made aware of all of Dan's new episodes.
Yeah, come watch my show.
Of Secret Sauce as they become available. And our next episode of Bake It Up a Notch is a very special episode that actually brought me to tears. And you know why?
Why?
Because it tasted just like my grandma's.
Yes, we love that. What is it?
It's chicken and waffles.
Oh,
is what we're
boy.
making. If this episode does inspire you to bake your own cookies, please use hashtag Bake It Up a Notch because I'd love to see what you're baking in your own kitchens. And until next time, you want to say it with me? What I say at the end of every show is happy baking.
Let's do it.
Okay, so until next time, well, I just want, just in case.
Okay.
Until next time, happy baking.